The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to today's presentation, Tuesday, January 26th, 2021. You are here for session 3 of the IOR training webinars that we've been putting on for you on how to speak IOR. In the go-to panel, we have uploaded presentation slides in a PDF format, so you're more than welcome to download those if you haven't done so already. And we've also uploaded the Tips from the Experts, a guide for working on projects under OSHPD jurisdiction. This is a document that's helpful and beneficial to those who have downloaded it, where this document actually outlines a lot of the IOR duties and responsibilities that you would be assuming should you be an IOR for projects under our jurisdiction. We do want to let you know that if you plan to participate in the IOR exam, the deadline to submit your application and fees is February 1st, 2021. Again, if you're planning on participating in the IOR exam, the deadline to submit your application and fees is February 1st, 2021. For this presentation, you'll be here for about just under an hour, and the webinar is a third part in a 5-part series that helps guide you through how to prepare for the IOR exam. We're going to go ahead and play a recording today, which is going to announce some previous dates, as you see in this first slide here. So don't pay attention to those dates, as we're going to provide those dates, more current dates, at the end of the webinar. So make sure you stay to the end. You will all be muted during the presentation. If you have a question, please be sure to type the question into the go-to panel, and we're going to go ahead and answer those questions throughout the presentation. Typically, we stay at the end and we answer live questions, but we will not be doing that today. So be sure to answer or put your question into the go-to question box, and we'll answer those throughout the presentation. If you have a specific question, or if you feel your question didn't get answered during the presentation, feel free to email us at oshpd.fddisu@oshpod.ca.gov. Again, that's oshpd.fddisu@oshpod.ca.gov. If you experience transmission difficulties while we're going through the presentation, be sure to log back in using the same login information that the go-to panel sent you, and we'll do the same on our end if we have transmission difficulties or we experience audio-visual issues. Today, for a presenter, we're going to have myself. My name is Caesar, and I am a compliance officer within the Office of Statewide Health Planning and Development under the Inspection Services Unit. So thank you all for joining us. So I'm going to go ahead and start the recording now. So Caesar, if you're there, the presentation is all yours.
Again, thank you for joining us. This is session 3 of a 5-part series, and we're going to go over through some helpful tips as to how to speak IOR. Hopefully you find this helpful. If you're an IOR already, whether you're a Class C looking to move up to Class B or A, or even entertaining the idea of becoming an IOR, this is a great session for you to attend, and along with all of our other sessions and any of the presentations that we have here at OSHPD. So with that being said, thank you, and we're off and running with the presentation. The agenda items that we're going to go over is how to succeed as an IOR, IOR safety, what's a TIO, who is responsible for what, IORs and inspections, IORs and OSHPD, IOR daily reports and field records, construction deviations and what to do with that, notices to OSHPD, and the California Energy Commission forms. So this is going to be, again, a lot of information, so keep up, and if you miss something or need further clarification, feel free to use that question box in the go-to software. So with that being said, how to succeed. Successful IOR, and how do you do that? So just know that OSHPD certification is not enough. This goes along with ICC certification or any other certification that you have. You should really have good knowledge comparable to the types of projects that you're assigned to as an IOR. So if you have a certification, just taking the exam and passing the exam is not gonna help you if you don't have that relevant experience. And it's good to have that experience and the background, and also know that with that, it's going to be one of the main points that I'm going to point out today is to be able to use your resources. If you don't have comparable experience, use your resources, whether it's another IOR or OSHPD, and we'll get into more into that as we go along through the presentation. And just know that you as an IOR, you help the project succeed. You need to have good communication. You need to have good code of ethics as well. Professionalism as an IOR. IORs are employed by the hospital governing board or authority approved by OSHPD and under the direction of the DPOR. And the DPOR is something that I'm going to mention fairly often during this presentation. And it's, DPOR is the design professional of record. That could be anything from an architect or an engineer or some sort of engineer in licensed engineer, of course. Your duty to the project as an IOR. You need to avoid contingent arrangements, quid pro quo, or this for that. Be sure that your standard, your code of ethics is high, and make sure that you don't come in and say, I'm going to go ahead and let that slide if you do this other thing for me. That's, avoid those kind of arrangements. Don't accept gifts from approved agencies, special inspectors, third-party agencies, and DPORs, again, the design professional of records or construction managers. And I hope this is all common sense for you, but we figured throw that in there and then kind of point it out again. Professionalism, continue. You have a duty to the public as an IOR. You need to be a professional, only inspect the things in your area of understanding. Again, this is a great point. Be able to go out there on the job as you're walking these jobs. Your job may be smaller, might be large. Always use your best judgment. If you're asked to look at something that's outside of your wheelhouse or your comfort level, pick up the phone and call a compliance officer or a DSC, district structural engineer from OSHPD or FLSO, fire life safety officer. Be able to use your resources in OSHPD to ask questions. And there's no silly question. We're here to help. Only be objective in your inspections and reporting. Be fair, honest, and act in good faith in the performance of your duties. Make sure that you're out there doing the best you can. These jobs at times could be difficult, and it could be that you've had a past experience where you left a bad taste in your mouth. Just be sure to enforce the code and what it says. Read the code if you're not sure. Again, ask the compliance officer or another IOR. So first poll question is, who employs IOR? Is it the design professional of record, hospital governing board or authority, the project manager, or the contractor? If you answered hospital governing board or authority, you're right. Keep in mind that you're not employed as an IOR. As an IOR, you're not employed by the design professional or the architect or engineer, the project manager, or the contractor. And that's important to know because in the long run, the hospital owner, they're the ones coming in and saying, yes, we choose you. We're going to have you inspect our project. Even though you're going to have very lengthy interaction with the design professional of record, the project managers, and the contractors, just know that who your employer is, and what as you go along with your daily IOR activities. IOR safety, personal protective equipment, or PPE, as we're going to refer to it as. The California Department of Health, or CDPH, provides precautionary measures and a list of PPEs to prevent respiratory illness, including COVID-19. So COVID-19, it's something that, I haven't experienced, and this is proving to be pretty difficult and challenging. So as an IOR, you're out there in the field along with OSHPD field personnel and other stakeholders, or stakeholders meaning someone who has a vested interest in your project. You're challenged, and you're challenged out there doing the work while walking these job sites. And we're going to go over that as to how to help you, give you pointers as to how to handle that. CDPH recommends the following precautionary measures to prevent respiratory illness, including COVID-19. So wash your hands with soap and water. Clean and disinfect frequently touched surfaces daily. If surfaces are dirty, clean them using detergent or soap and water prior to disinfection. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, or mouth with unwashed hands. And I think if anything, this is very, very important. All 3 bullet points here is, just be cautious. And if you are in an area where you have to touch something or climb a ladder or get on your hands and knees to get under some plumbing, don't touch your eyes, your nose, or your mouth before you wash your hands. Very, very important. Cover your cough or sneeze with a tissue or your elbow. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Staying away from work, school, or other people if you become sick with some symptoms like fever and cough. PPE continued. All personnel shall wear a mask. Is what we're telling people, and other additional items considered by the CDPH as optional are gowns, aprons, goggles, face shields, face masks, respirators, and gloves. The following shall be followed to maintain the health and safety of IORs, OSHPD personnel, and other stakeholders during a pandemic. So keep in mind that this is good items to follow when you're out there in the field. A safe meeting place where you can maintain social distancing, of course, 6 feet from each other. Limit the number of IORs, inspectors, DPORs, or design professional of records, construction managers, or installing contractors. When you're out there coming in and doing your inspections, people are going to want to join you during your inspections, and you're going to, next thing you know, you're going to have a full entourage of people that are wanting to join the inspection, whether it's the inspection of an underground plumbing, fire lines, electrical conduits, or rough framing, or whatever it is. You're going to have people wanting to join you. And for now, it's a good idea to limit those people joining you for those types of inspections. Be sure to inspect only the areas of work only. IOR should not be taken in construction areas that are not related to the work being done. And if the area of construction involves COVID-19 patients, proper PPE shall be worn by all before entering into the area. So make sure that you protect yourselves. If the area of inspection involves roof construction, the person responsible for guiding the IORs on the roof needs to make sure that they identify all of the roof vents, where they are on the roof, what area of the facility the vents are exhausting, like COVID-19 isolation rooms, ORs, ICUs, laundries, etc. Making sure and steering the IORs and OSHPD staff away from those areas. So you want to make sure that you know where they are and how are they going to do that. So they need to provide you a roof plan of this information before you get on the roof. That way, once you get on the roof, if you have a vent that's fairly close, that's going to be fairly close to the area you're inspecting. You need to be able to stay away from that area as well. A poll question. When guiding the inspection team through the facility, the guide shall be responsible for what? Avoiding non-construction related areas, avoiding all areas with COVID-19 patients, identify all the roof vents exhausting COVID-19 areas, provide the inspection team a roof plan, or all of the above. If you chose all of the above, you're right. All of these items here are essential for your job as you're walking the job, and it doesn't have to be on the roof. If you're walking through an area that you may have to walk through a room or an infected area, make sure that you know that. Make sure that you have that conversation with the person, with the construction manager or the contractor as they guide you through the work. So, what is a testing, inspection, and observation program, the TIO? So this TIO program is crucial to OSHPD projects, and we're going to go over why in just a sec. So the TIO is a guide to assist the design professionals in the administration of construction projects under OSHPD's jurisdiction, and increases the collaboration, accountability, and cooperation, provides assistance for the efficient development and implementation of the code-required test, and clarifies the roles and responsibilities of the parties involved, and it better defines the milestones in each project. So this is a tool. This is a tool for the design professional to come in and do the administration of the actual project. Now, notice that we didn't say that the TIO is administered by the IOR. Again, if you've been a part of our previous sessions, you'll know that the TIO program is not administered by the IOR. It's actually administered by the design professional, and that's a code requirement. So this is what the TIO program looks like. This is a sample of section B, where the design professional will put a checkbox on the left-hand side where it says required, and they put a box in that section. If the soil fill needs to be tested, if soil and rock anchors need to be looked at, deep foundation elements, and again, this is just a sample. On the right-hand side, you'll see in a vertical position, compliance verification by the IOR. That's where you as an IOR will come in and initial and date if you agree with their findings and if things okay per the required test. And then next to that box, you'll see OSHPD/FDD use, and that's where we will go ahead and initial and date as well. What is a TIO program continued? The TIO is a required element for OSHPD projects. Design professionals of record, or DPOR, may they maintain all aspects of the TIO program current. Evolving projects, OSHPD projects are rarely static. So this is something that you'll find that the design professional will come in and have to identify the tests and samples that are required in the ever-changing construction project. And if you've been a part of any construction project, you'll find that rarely any project, regardless of the size, is static. It's ever-changing. So, and which kind of leads me into another area of the presentation where we kind of emphasize that you as an IOR, you need to be able to go out there and be active in the project. You need to be able to go out there and have conversations with the contractors and the people doing the installation as to what's coming up on the schedule. So we'll get more into that in a little bit. OSHPD projects are dynamic and require team collaboration and regular reference to the TIO for milestones. The format is the format we have on the website right now. It's an Excel format and it's downloadable. We have it both in Excel and PDF. But know that this format we have on our website is just a sample, and it can be used by DPORs. But the DPOR can develop their own for their own project and to make it specific to their project. And it may be that we didn't identify some of the tests that are required for that specific project, and again, the DPOR would have a better sense of that. So consult with your DPOR or the design professional as to what tests are going to be required and what samples are required as well. The TIO in any format should not change the intent of the original approved plans, specifications, or code-required tests or inspections. I'll go back to that slide. Just remember that just because it's not on the TIO and it wasn't identified by the design professional, it may or may not have been an oversight where they failed to identify a required test in Chapter 17 or in the NFPA or what have you. So what we're saying is that because it's not on the TIO may not mean that it's not required. So check with your design professional. Instructions. The TIO instructions should clearly define the responsibilities of all the project participants. Instructions are optional but are a good tool to help clarify test inspections and responsibilities. And again, I'll stress throughout the presentation that communication is key. If you have good communication with your design professional, with your compliance officers out there, with your district structural engineers or DSCs and fire life safety officers, you're going to be ahead of the game as opposed to just not picking up the phone and having a simple conversation. Monitoring of the TIO. Although DPORs bear the responsibility to administer the TIO, IORs also have and play an important role in monitoring the TIO. Monitoring of the TIO program includes verifying that tests and special inspections are appropriately performed on and off-site, performed by quality OSHPD approved entities, performed by independent entities, and reported, including a clear description of the work tested or inspected, as well as a definitive compliance statement, whether it complies or it doesn't comply. Poll question. What is a TIO program used for? Is it used to identify all tests for the project? Is it used to identify all inspections for the project? Used to identify all IORs on the project, or all of the above? And if you said all of the above, you're right. It's important because all of these three items, although are identified on the TIO is that and much more. So as an IOR, be familiar with the TIO. Please understand that the TIO form and the program is not your responsibility to administer, but it is your responsibility to make sure that whatever they identify on the TIO is being checked off and inspected. So who's responsible for what? So the owner is responsible for funding the project, general oversight of the project progress, and the performance of other associated with the development and implementation of the TIO. And guess what? Here we go again. The owner also employs the IOR. The design professional of record, or the DPOR, they coordinate with the owner, OSHPD staff, the IOR, and the design team. They also gather and distribute all verified compliance reports and test and special inspection reports. And here we go, the TIO program. This is theirs. The design professional delegate coordinates with the DPOR, with the main design professional, for all tests and inspections required on the project, in conducting field visits to observe and report conditions relative to their design. And they also submit VCRs at pre-identified milestones on the TIO. And here's a brief chart that helps identify that. So a DPOR, a design professional of record, can have a delegate, and a delegate can have an alternate, but an alternate cannot have an alternate. So it all, if you follow the chart back, it all falls back to the DPOR. Who is responsible for what continued? So what's your responsibility as an IOR? You oversee all the quality assurance of the project and reporting and validating of the work done by testing laboratories, owner-provided third-party agencies like the installing contractors, and the owner-provided third-party special inspectors as well. The IOR is also responsible for gathering, maintaining, and validating related test and inspection documents, such as credentials of special inspectors, and that's the code section that says you have to do that, collection of OSHPD test and special inspection forms, distribution of OSHPD staff field reports to contractor, owner, and DPOR. You're also responsible for validating the work done by contractors, submitting VCRs to the DPOR as identified on the milestones on the TIO, keeping records relative to sign-offs, performing all IOR tests and inspections identified on the TIO as IOR responsibility. The hospitals, per this section in the administrative code, so CAC California Administrative Code section 7-144 says the hospital shall provide for competent, adequate, and continuous inspection by one or more IORs. When the hospital proposes more than one IOR, then this is what needs to happen. On the TIO, a lead IOR needs to be identified to coordinate and communicate with the office. All other IORs also need to be approved by OSHPD prior to working on the project. And on the TIO, you'll find that the IOR, the lead IOR, will be identified, and all of the other IORs shall be identified as to what scope of the project they're going to be responsible for inspecting. So, poll question, who is responsible for the TIO? Is it the IOR, hospital owner, DPOR, or the contractor? And if you thought the DPOR, you're right. I think we stressed that a couple of times. So I'm hoping you got it. IORs and inspections. So what's a competent inspection? It's reporting of all inconsistencies or seeming errors in the approved construction documents, preparing complete and accurate field reports for each day or portion of the day present at a job site, noting all construction deficiencies or deviations from the approved construction documents, and making sure you note the date, time, and method of correction for the deficiencies, and notifying the contractor in writing of any deficiencies from the approved construction documents which have not been immediately corrected by the contractor. So this is key. As you walk these jobs as an IOR, you'll find that you're on your way to do an inspection. You'll look at something and you'll say, hey, by the way, this isn't done. Don't cover it up until I approve it. And the response you might get is, well, we're not done with that work, so kind of keep walking. So if you find something that it is not right, then the contractor needs to correct it immediately. And if they don't correct it immediately, then you need to notify the owner, the contractor, and OSHPD in writing. Adequate inspection, what does that mean? So SOP 10-07 means it's a document on our website, Standard Operating Procedures 10-07, and it kind of clarifies what the adequate inspection is we're looking for. The IOR on the job site has to be on the job site and has obtained the required personal knowledge by continuous inspection. And we'll go into continuous inspection on the next slides. IOR personal knowledge, H&SC means Health and Safety Code, section 129830. And this is what it says. The inspector's personal continuous inspection of the work of construction in all stages of its progress at the site where the inspector is responsible for inspection. It also means that when work is carried away from the site, that personal knowledge that is obtained from reporting of others on the testing of or inspection of materials and workmanship for compliance with plans, specifications, or applicable standards. So an example of continuous inspections, it could be something like concrete pours. It could be something like masonry, spray applied fireproofing, etc. So it's continuous inspection is inspection of the work that cannot be inspected after it's placed, right? So if you're needing to look at the placement of the concrete and the specs call for a concrete vibrator needing to be used, you need to be sure that it's there. The concrete vibrator is there, being used as the right size. If it's too big, it might blow out the frame, the framing for it, etc. So your presence and your inspection is needed continuously during, as examples of these type of applications. IORs and inspections continued. The reporting of others, reasonable diligence shall be exercised in obtaining the facts, such as confirming the special inspector's qualifications, and we'll get more into that in the next slides. Periodic visits to the location where the off-site work is being performed to ensure that the appropriate qualified staff are present and ensure appropriate staff are performing their work in a competent, code-compliant manner. So a periodic inspection, this is something that can be inspected after it's installed, such as rough frame. So in a rough frame, you have rough electrical, rough plumbing, rough mechanical, and rough and structural members. You can inspect all of this stuff, the majority of stuff, I'd say 99% of the stuff, before it's covered up, but after it's installed. So this would be an example of periodic inspections. It's also important to note that IOR shall not have or assume any duties which will prevent you from doing the continuous inspection on these projects which you've been approved for. So this code section here identifies what I just said, and the reason I have this picture of Southern California and the LA area is that you may be approved to work on two different projects that are 10, 15 miles apart, but because of unforeseen circumstances such as traffic, you won't be able to get from one job to the other, and you're not going to be able to perform your IOR duties as required. So poll question, should an IOR assume jobs even if it will prevent him or her from providing continuous inspection? Yes. Yes if approved by the design professional of record. Yes if jobs are close to each other. Or no. The answer is no. So if you can't do the job, it's probably best you don't take on the job because we'll get into OSHPD and IORs and what OSHPD will expect of you more than we already have and what we can get into. So observation by OSHPD, what do we do? During the construction of any health facility, the office or OSHPD shall make such observations such as in its judgment is necessary or proper for the enforcement of the regulations and all of the applicable parts in the California Building Standards Code. So that's usually Title 24, what people refer to it as, and it includes all of its parts. So this includes scheduled and unscheduled visits by OSHPD. So know that just because we don't give you a heads up that we're going to stop by, we can stop by if it's on our way to another job and ask you to provide documentation as allows us in the code. And we're hoping that you're there and doing the continuous inspections as needed. Best practice, again, communicate and establish with FDD or us, FDD, OSHPD, field staff, their intended observation plan and milestones and IOR inspection expectations. So again, communication is key. Be able to come in and use OSHPD as a resource to say, hey, listen, this is what we have going on this project. What are you going to want to see from me? And that's a great opportunity to discuss the project at length and better understand what we're looking for. OSHPD field visits. What's that going to include, and what should you do as an IOR? So the IOR needs to prepare documentation for various inspections to ensure inspections were adequately and competently conducted. The records need to be up to date with codes, plans, and specifications, and the approved changes. Need to have an up-to-date TIO, outstanding RFIs waiting on direction from the DPOR, show OSHPD how inspections and results have been organized, and be able to discuss the project process. Also be able to identify any problems being faced in the field, to discuss IOR and DPR communication with frequency of meetings, and provide OSHPD a tour of the facility to outline progress and concerns. This is a point I want to stress, is to be able to go out, time permitting, walk the job site with the OSHPD rep field staff and identify the sections that you're concerned with. This is a great opportunity for you to further enhance that communication with OSHPD and just have that communication and have the discussion, what code section applies, what your concern is and why the concern is. And it may be a chance for you to discuss, some of your oil items or outstanding items list. Be able to communicate with OSHPD field staff, RCOs, COs, DSCs, and FLSOs. Establish a meeting frequency like a phone call or virtual meeting. And use OSHPD reps for advice on each specialty like COs, DSCs, and FLSOs. And if anything, you're seeing that one of the main points of today's webinar is to be able to have that open line of communication with OSHPD. Communication is key and is very, very, very important. Field staff and site visits continued. If OSHPD becomes the inspector for the work of construction, then something's gone wrong. You as an IOR are either having issues, problems, or difficulties working on that project, and OSHPD will move to correct that condition per the California Administrative Code, or CAC, Section 7-213. So keep in mind that there are disciplinary actions that OSHPD can take against an IOR for not doing the job. But one great thing to do that you can utilize and exercise is communication with us as to what's happening, so we can avoid any of the Section 7-213 actions there. So IOR needs to have a good communication skills. An IOR can help move the project along with a thorough understanding of the CAC, or the California Administrative Code. And if you don't know what the CAC is, it's a great section or a great code to become familiar with, only because that's the outline for so at least Chapter 7 is for the OSHPD projects, right? They're going to come in and it's going to explain to you exactly what the TIO is. It's going to explain to you exactly what IORs are expected to comply with. And even if you're an existing IOR and you're up for recertification, it's going to tell you what requirements are required for recertification onto the A, B, and C classes. So poll question, what is one of the main factors for an IOR success? Communication, up-to-date plans, organization of files and plans, or all of the above? Again, this is, I hope it's common sense, but we're here to point it out. And again, communication, up-to-date plans is great. That's something that you'll be faced out on the job site, ever changing. Remember, we said that the projects are typically not static and always changing. So make sure you have up-to-date plans, and those plans have a stamp of approval on those. And make sure that you're out there inspecting to an approved set of construction documents. Very, very, very often you'll find that because the project is non-static, you're going to have RFIs coming out and you're going to have people saying, this is how we want you to build it. And well, you have to make sure that the detail or whatever the updated plan has the right delta on it, and that it has been reviewed and approved by OSHPD prior to inspecting to it. So if you see a set of plans out there or a detail that's not approved, ask the question, pause and ask the question, has it been approved by OSHPD? IOR daily reports and field records. Field records, per the section of the California Administrative Code, says that IORs need to provide a daily report while on the job. The report shall include time of arrival, departure, summary of work in progress, deficiencies in construction, and deviations from approved construction documents, date, time, and method of correction for deficiencies and deviations. I also want to add that I've seen reports where they also include the temperature outside, and they include what kind of weather the day had. And it's important because if you ever need to look back on your report and you want to know why the concrete didn't cure right, or why the intumescent paint on a structural member didn't do its job, you want to be able to say, well, look, it was too cold on this day, and I told them they shouldn't have applied it because it was, colder than allowed by the specifications for the material being applied, and it's going to be a record of your actions out there in the field, and it's going to help you down the line. So IOR shall maintain field records on site, and you need to include your daily reports. You also need to have all test and special inspection reports, a list of test reports for all non-conforming materials or defective workmanship, and shall indicate the method of correction. Approved construction documents like complete plans, specifications, addendas, and deferred submittals, and COs, etc. Of course, you need to have the TIO program and a building permit. So, field records continued. When we get into field records for the IOR, there are specific items in the code that says for concrete, in addition to the daily report, you need to make sure that you identify the time, date of placing for the concrete, time, date of removal of forms and shoring, location of defective concrete, and time and date of method of correction if there was an issue, and then the log of changes, and this includes all OSHPD's determination of materials change or not. And also, for welding, the code also wants all of this to be identified in your daily report when it comes to welding. And you need to identify ID marks of welders, list of defective welds, manner of correction of defects, and other related events. For pile-driven foundation, the administrative code also wants location, i.e. grid lines in proximity to. And I'll pause here, and I'll use this suggestion to tell everybody that it's also a great idea in your daily report, if you're out there inspecting on a large project or even a small project, a certain area, whether it's plumbing, electrical, structural, fire sprinkler alarms, or what have you, to identify where on the project you did your inspection, and identify the grid lines in your daily report. For example, if you're going out doing an inspection of rough plumbing on a project and it's on the second floor, on your daily report, identify what sheet, what grid line, whether it's J12 in room number 125, to better help identify what section of the area of the project you inspected. And that suggestion is a great suggestion for any inspection that you do out in the field. So coming back to driven pile foundations, identify the length, penetration under the last 10 blows for each pile, and description of the piles used, the name, the model number, and also include the description of the equipment condition being used. Poll question: are IORs required to maintain daily reports for every day or portion of the day when they are on the job site? Yes, no, or sometimes. Answer is yes. Construction deviations. So what happens if you see something that doesn't look right? So hospital construction projects are often very complicated. Because of their complexity, the project often requires tests for information, RFIs, which at times changes the details and other aspects of construction and subsequently requires the project to be built out of line from the approved construction documents. So what do you do? If the IOR encounters deviations from the approved construction documents, then you need to make sure the contractor is aware of the deviations, like we mentioned before. If the deviations are not corrected immediately, notify the contractor, architect, engineer, and OSHPD in writing. Copies of those notifications need to be forwarded to the DPOR owner and OSHPD. Is the IOR required to notify the owner and OSHPD in writing of all construction deviations? Yes, no, only if it's not corrected immediately by the contractor, or no vote. Only if it's not corrected immediately by the contractor, and that's important. Notices to OSHPD. What do you need to send into OSHPD? So you as an IOR need to have copies of the deviations from the approved construction document notices when the work has started or resumed on the project, and at least 48 hours in advance of the time when the foundation trenches will be complete, ready for footing or forms, at least 48 hours in advance of the first placing of concrete, and when work has been suspended for a period of more than 2 weeks. So these are all reasons to send OSHPD notices. So this is going to happen when you are out on the job and you're having conversations with the contractors, you're going to meetings, construction meetings, and keeping up to date on the job. One thing that we wanted to point out is, as an IOR, it's not your job to sit in a construction trailer and wait for an inspection request. You actually need to go out there and you need to be active in the project. You need to have those conversations, have that line of communication with everybody involved on the job, because that's going to give you a keen understanding of the project, and not only of what's up and coming as far as work to be done, but also typical issues that you're finding out on the job. And walking and talking with the people doing the work are to be completed under the purview of the installing contractor when it comes to the CEC documents. And the document is going to say, identify what was installed to meet the CEC non-residential compliance forms. And just kind of a FYI, as we see the next slides, the field technician is the installing contractor. Licensed installing contractor equals a responsible person. So the field technician declaration statement, what they're going to sign and date and provide all the information. And what they're doing is they're saying, hey, I as a field tech or the installing contractor, under penalty of perjury, I installed what the material is on the job site per the approved construction documents, and to the best of my knowledge is code compliant. And the same thing is true for the responsible person or the licensed contractor. They, under penalty of perjury, are coming in and saying what's installed is approved per the approved construction documents to the best of their knowledge. So what's your responsibility as an IOR? Upon completion of the CEC forms, the IOR will review for compliance with the approved construction documents and the TIO program and indicate their concurrence with an initial and date on the TIO. These documents are submitted to the IOR by the author of the report per this section, and the record shall be made available upon request at the project by submitted to the hospital owner upon the project completion. And these records can also be asked to be produced by OSHPD, a field staff, when they come visit the job. So if you have any more information, or if you need any more information about the CEC forms, this is a good contact information form. Whether it's the 1-800 number outside of California, you can use that phone number there, the 916, or you can send an email to title24@energy.ca.gov.
All right, that's the end of the recording there. That's a lot of information, and we know that if you were trying to keep up and take notes, we were able to upload the presentation for your use on all of the slides up to that go-to panel. So feel free to download that if you haven't done so already. And also want to give you a pointer towards the California Administrative Code that we pulled all this information from, and it's available for you online. But it's if you want to jot the code sections down, it's California Administrative Code Section 7-135, which really begins to outline the requirements of what's required for the project, what type of documentation is needed, the types of tests, and how to identify that, and who's responsible for what. And let me correct myself. It won't identify which tests are required, but it does outline all of the other requirements that you as an IOR will need to comply with. And also, if you're interested in knowing how to apply or how you qualify for either the Class A, the Class B, or the Class C IOR exam, the California Administrative Code Section 7-204 is going to give you that roadmap as well. If you have any other questions, or if you think of a question later on that after the presentation that you want to ask the Inspection Services Unit, please feel free to email us at oshpd.fpdisu@oshpd.ca.gov. Again, that's oshpod.fpdisu@oshpod.ca. We also want to remind you that feel free to submit your application and your fees to us prior to February 1st if you want to go ahead and participate in that exam. Up and coming February 2nd, we have Session 4, How to Succeed as an IOR, as a continuation of this training program or this series of webinars. And then February 9th, we're going to have Session 5, which is a summary of all of the presentations we've done so far. So with that, this concludes our presentation for today. We want to thank you for your interest in becoming a certified inspector of record with the Office of Statewide Health Planning and Development. So until next time, stay healthy and stay safe.